I like to believe superhero fatigue has finally set in. We have been so desensitized to everything and all things comic book cinema, and for that, many people have tuned out since Endgame. Sure, we got some blockbuster hits along the way post-Infinity Saga like Spider-Man No Way Home, The Batman, Suicide Squad, Joker, and Across the Spider-Verse. But let's look back on some films that got way too much blowback by the critics when some of them were just downright decent.
Save Martha!
And that's spanning across both the DC and Marvel spectrum since the comic book boom in 2000 with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Shazam! Go! Go! Go, Web, go!
Let's go left field in 2011 with director Martin Campbell, who made some damn good James Bond flicks with GoldenEye and Casino Royale. Mr. Campbell wanted to branch off the path of action flicks and dip his toes into the superhero genre with Green Lantern, which starred Deadpool himself, Ryan Reynolds. Green Lantern was supposed to be the first film that jump-started the original DCEU, but due to the critical bombing and box office flop, those plans later reverted to Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, taking the reins as the main film to headstrong the new universe. Leaving Green Lantern to become a distant memory to cinemagoers around the world. And honestly, look where we are at now, and do I dare say it's almost comparable to what we have gotten during the golden age of MCU and DCEU flicks? Well, it's me, Paul Bookstaber, aka Paulie Books, and let's dive in. Poor Ryan Reynolds. Prior to his success of 2016's Deadpool, he was on the back end of some pretty bad superhero films. In 2009, he starred as a half-assed version of Deadpool himself in X-Men Origins Wolverine. That movie also bombed horrendously due to its weak storytelling and phoned-in execution.
Brings out the seriousness in your eyes.
Oh my god, you ever shut up, pal?
Mr. Reynolds was so ashamed that Deadpool was even interpreted in that way, stripping all the best parts of an authentic comic book style Merc with a mouth. This pushed Mr. Reynolds to redeem himself in leaked test footage down the road that only became viral, and the rest was history. His second superhero outing was this film, as Hal Jordan, setting the stage for his journey through the Green Lantern Corps due to Green Lantern Abin Sur passing his ring to Hal before dying. And while the film may have been labeled as a sloppy, half-baked, CGI-ridden mess, Green Lantern is in no way worse than Halle Berry's Catwoman or Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. But hear me out, I think critics bashed this movie to high hell.
Ah, Green!
Sure, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but sure as hell is fun to watch, and it stands alongside a ton of mid-tier superhero flicks instead of being a basement-dwelling flick at your local bargain bin. To be honest, many people wanted a Green Lantern film for quite some time. He has some unique and amazing powers within the DC Universe, and is also a great member of the Justice League. It was only a matter of time before Warner Bros. Made Green Lantern's comic book panels a reality. Ryan Reynolds was so psyched himself to tackle Wolf Hal Jordan prior to production. Lanterns have the power to create and construct anything their mind and will possesses with the help of the ring they wield, which helps vanquish all forms of evil. Green Lanterns are the equivalent to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, but in all honesty, a hell of a lot more badass if done right. This movie was only a small fraction of Green Lantern's full potential if done perfectly. It's a shame that we got a watered down version of Lantern, albeit enjoyable at times. The ingredients for the film were here too. A great director with an eye for action, spectacle, a witty and hilarious actor in Ryan Reynolds that resembles Green Lantern's Hal Jordan, and lastly, Hollywood's ever-evolving hand in developing cutting-edge CGI. It only made sense for Warner Bros. To dive in and produce the world's galactic protector for the big screen. If only if it were that simple. The film takes off with fighter pilot and ego-driven, wise-cackling Hal Jordan. Take away the fighter pilot and it almost sounds like I was talking about Deadpool for a minute.
No.
But let's get back to Hal. Hal is an ace pilot with the ability to demonstrate impeccable flying skills and, most importantly, a person with no limits to his pedigree. After being fired, he's led to a wounded alien, Abin Sur, who crash lands onto Earth after fighting the evil space monster Parallax. Parallax used to be Oa Guardian who wanted to use the power of fear as an alternative source to energize the planet. Fear overtook the Guardian and turned him into a space beast who preys on fear and becomes bigger and more dangerous with every soul it devours. With Abin Sur's last moments, he passes his duties manipulation powers onto Hal, considering the ring chose Hal for his ability to show no fear even in the face of death. This makes Hal possess true qualities to the Lantern Corps. However, when Abinsur's body is being evaluated by Amanda Waller, and no, not the one brilliantly portrayed by Viola Davis in the DCEU, but rather portrayed by Angela Bassett, a piece of parallax that was lodged into Abinsur jumps onto scientist Hector Hammond, played by Peter Sarsgaard. Well, as you know it, calamity ensues, putting Earth in peril as well as the whole galaxy. This is where Hal's true test of being a Green Lantern is used, as he dons the infamous suit and face mask and showing us for the first time a live-action Green Lantern.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Set aside the overdone and ultra-glossy CGI, and I was still intrigued by the excellent world building of Oa, and how each lantern is a different alien species who protects their own sector amongst the galaxy. And while movies like Aquaman, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Black Panther have done this extremely well, I can parallel Green Lantern and 2011's Thor as being the films who started these grandiose world-building tales to capture the comic book worlds of Asgard and Oa. Convince me that the world of Oa wasn't beautiful and intriguing to look at throughout the runtime. It's even more interesting than Asgard in my opinion. And to be honest, Green Lantern's world of Oa is even more fun to explore than Asgard in my opinion. And we spend a good amount of time on Oa as Hal uses some of his powers to the leader of the Lantern Corps, Sinestro, who is perfectly casted as Mark Strong. It's Sinestro who becomes a naysayer and doubts Hal's abilities to defend his sector of Earth as well as the galaxy as a whole, causing Hal to leave Oa and return to his homeworld. When Hector slowly deteriorates into an otherworldly being, he calls to Parallax, which makes its way to Earth to create havoc and doom civilization as we know it. In all honesty, it's actually funny seeing Hector Hammond turn to the parts Ben Stiller's fat suit self in Dodgeball, mixed with parts of Ron Jeremy and Incredible Hulk's the leader. Peter Sarsgaard takes his villainous role a little too hammy, making him a truly forgettable foil by the time the credits roll. And while we have some gnarly telekinetic abilities and mind-reading telepathy, especially when he sets his father on fire, played by Tim Robbins, I feel like his squirrely voice, squeaky cries of anguish, and off-putting appearance were not threatening at all. In my opinion, he would be better suited as a Dick Tracy villain, and not one belonging in the Green Lantern universe, but that's just a hot take. There are some great moments displayed in Green Lantern that could compete alongside some great comic book moments. Sure, we may have a filler-induced flick, but it does have some really cool action sequences. For instance, when Hal is using his ring on Oa to be trained as a Lantern, you get a really awesome duel between him and Sinestro. What turns into a sword fight quickly turns into each other's rings manipulating objects like a machine gun, brick walls. It's a true battle of wits, or rings, but it showcases the ring's true power to those who possess it. Then you have the battle between Parallax and Hal at the climax of the film. What takes place is pure chaos on the city streets as Parallax begins engulfing the buildings and occupants below. The only sad thing is you have to wait till the ending for it to happen. Hal says his Lantern credo, which is the price of admission alone. You can tell Reynolds was really having a blast becoming Hal Jordan towards the end of the movie, getting angrier with every word spoken, then blasting Parallax into space.
Green Lantern's life!
It's one of those ultimate hero moments, like Superman blowing up the world engine, Edward Norton falling off a helicopter so he could turn to the Hulk to fight Abomination, or the Flash in the Snyder Cut using his Speed Force. And while we may not get a ton of action scenes in Green Lantern, it still has some great moments, especially the mid-credit scene. Now, here's where I talk about Mark Strong as Sinestro. There are some iconic castings in comic book cinema already, like Heath Ledger's Joker, or Robert Downey's Iron Man, or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, or Wesley Snipes' Blade, but Mark Strong as Sinestro is just a total chef's kiss. The guy is literally ripped out from the panels of his comic book counterpart. It's a damn shame we never got a true battle between Hal and him, especially when it's teased during the mid-credit scene as he puts the Ring of Fear on and dons his true yellow suit and yellow eyes. If James Gunn was smart, I would actually recast Mark Strong to return as Sinestro for a new take on the Lantern Corps, because he was a splitting image from the comic books. Green Lantern unfortunately was a box office disaster, only taking in $220 million worldwide to a production of $200 million. Not counting marketing expenses, this was a very tough pill to swallow for Ryan Reynolds and company, especially Warner Brothers. The film's budget ballooned because of the effects-heavy visuals in the movie. There are approximately 1,300 CGI shots, which was a daunting task for the visual effects team, and they were also under very stressful deadlines to meet the theatrical release date. This is probably why some of the scenes are so iffy with the CGI, and I admit detracted me me from the film. But again, I've seen some pretty awful CGI in my time, and this wasn't much of an issue after a recent rewatch. It seemed the focus went to the ring's constructs and alien characters, Killalon voiced by Michael Clark Duncan and Tomare voiced by Jeffrey Rush. Any talks of a sequel were later shot down to the financial bombing this film had during its run. It was rumored that the Green Lantern needed a $500 million box office haul for it to be a success. Sadly, Green Lantern is a distant memory to most. There is a great performance in there from Ryan Reynolds, and even though this was a litmus test to his next superhero appearance as Deadpool, he does a really great job as Hal Jordan. Blake Lively also did a decent job as Hal's wing woman and love interest Carol Ferris. You see, Carol Ferris is easily comparable to any other female damsel in distress of a superhero film, but then again, she's only there to service the plot. Again, this movie is not as bad as people make it to be. It's really a decent film at best, and if I were to pick apart its flaws, then I guarantee there are many other films within both DC and Marvel that have the same components. And sadly, since then, we haven't really seen much of a Green Lantern, except for that clip of Zack Snyder teasing an alternate ending to his Snyder Cut. This scene showcased Affleck's Batman talking to Wayne T. Carr's Green Lantern instead of Martian Manhunter talking to Bruce Wayne. Oh, what could have been. In the meantime, give Green Lantern another watch. It really isn't as abysmal as people make it out to be. It has some really fun and enjoyable moments. A pretty bad villain, but still, that's not worth bashing the movie to high hell. On a brighter note, we also have the upcoming new DCU James Gunn Green Lantern Corps, which is officially greenlit by Warner Bros. And hopefully out within a year or two. It also has the writers from The Leftovers and Lost, so it's almost guaranteed that it can't suck. But we never know. Until then, guys, stay tuned for more content from JoBlo.